Welcome to Deep Dive. Today we're embarking on a really fascinating exploration into the intricate world of global movement. We're talking about the flow of both goods and people across international borders. It's a subject that honestly touches almost everyone, whether you're ordering something online from another country, maybe planning a trip abroad, or even if you're just curious about how our interconnected world actually works. Our mission today is to take a closer look at the unseen mechanisms, the things that facilitate this movement, and the rules that govern it, some of which are quite surprising, plus some of the details that genuinely impact your daily life, but often go unnoticed.
It really is a global ballet, isn't it? Quite something. What's remarkable, I think, is just how many layers there are. When you look at international trade and travel, from the basic economic principles driving it all, right down to the very specific documents and procedures you need, just to ensure smooth passage. We'll try and connect the dots for you today, help you understand not just what happens, but critically, why it matters, and maybe uncover some hidden complexities you hadn't really considered before.
Okay, let's start with the big picture then. The economics behind global trade. We're talking imports and exports, obviously. That everyday reality of how goods move between nations. You might not actively think about it, but the clothes you're wearing right now, the coffee you had this morning, the parts inside your phone, chances are they've crossed at least one border, probably more, to get to you.
Absolutely. And the driving force behind this colossal exchange, often comes down to a powerful concept. It's called comparative advantage. This theory, David Ricardo championed it, suggests countries benefit not just from doing what they're best at, but what they can produce most efficiently, or maybe think of it as the lowest opportunity cost. Historically, you had examples like Portugal making wine pretty cheaply, while England was better set up for manufacturing cloth. By specializing and then trading, both gained significantly more than if they tried to do everything themselves. That's the genius of it, really. It sort of silently orchestrates global efficiency. It nudges nations into this dance of mutual reliance that often goes beyond politics.
That makes a lot of sense. A powerful idea. And today, you see it, right? China may be leveraging its advantage in labor for certain goods, while the U.S. might specialize in, say, capital-intensive things, highly sophisticated products, both gain by focusing and trading. But, okay, if it's so beneficial, why do we always hear debates about trade restrictions? Tariffs? What's the argument for, putting up barriers?
Well, that gets us right into the core debate. Free trade versus protectionism. Free trade advocates argue that global supply and demand, left alone, will naturally lead to the most efficient production worldwide. Just let the market work. Protectionism, on the other hand, that's when governments step in. They regulate international trade using tools like, tariffs are a big one, basically taxes on imports. Then you have subsidies, government payments to help domestic producers lower their costs, and quotas too, strict limits on the quantity of certain goods that can be imported. The argument for protectionism, often it's about protecting infant industries, new sectors that need time to grow, or safeguarding strategic industries, like aerospace perhaps. The idea is these might generate knowledge or tech that benefits the whole economy, justifying some protection.
Right, those positive spillovers. And managing all this incredibly complex global picture, that's where organizations like the World Trade Organization, the WTO come in. They're kind of the referees in this game.
Precisely. Yeah, referee is a good way to put it. Established in 1995, it took over from GATT, the General Agreement on Tariffs and Trade. The WTO's main purpose is to reduce obstacles to international trade, to ensure a level playing field, essentially. They provide a forum for negotiating agreements, a legal framework for putting them into practice, and, crucially, a way to settle trade disputes when they inevitably arise, all aimed at fostering growth and development globally. It's a huge undertaking, really, trying to balance the interests of over 160 member countries.
Okay, so that's the theory, the economics. But beyond that, how do all these goods actually get from, say, a factory in Vietnam to a shop in Vancouver? This is where logistics comes in, right? The supply chain.
Exactly. The unsung heroes, as you call them. Logistics and the supply chain. It's this meticulous organization and management of, everything from buying raw materials, production, then warehousing, distribution, even thinking about the eventual disposal or reuse of products now. It's end to end.
And a huge part of that must be the actual transport.
Oh, fundamental, yeah. Getting goods across the globe involves some really strategic choices between speed, cost, and flexibility. Take river barges. They're incredibly cheap, but slow, and not very flexible in where they can go. Express trains. Much faster, especially over land compared to trucks, but they cost more, and you usually need to book well in advance. Then you get into specialized methods, things like multimodal or intermodal transport. That's where goods stay in the same container, maybe a shipping container, but move across different modes. Ship to train to truck, for instance. All to optimize the journey. Each choice is a careful calculation for businesses, balancing those trade-offs.
So with all that physical movement and different modes, how do companies keep track of who's responsible for the goods at each stage if something goes wrong? I imagine that could get messy.
It absolutely can. And this is where a set of crucial terms called Incoterms rules become essential. They can genuinely make or break a deal.
Incoterms. Okay, tell me more.
They're published by the International Chamber of Commerce, have been since way back in 1936. They provide universal guidance for buyers and sellers every day. What's really critical here is how these seemingly simple abbreviations, things like FOB, which means free on board, or EXW for X works, these have very precise legal meanings accepted globally. They define exactly who is responsible for the goods at different stages. It covers everything. Delivery, risk transfer, who pays for what costs, and honestly a misunderstanding, like mixing up FOB destination and FOB shipping point. That could shift millions of dollars of liability if goods get damaged or lost in transit. It's serious stuff.
Wow. Okay, so the terms are vital. And then there's the actual paperwork, right? To prove what's being shipped, who owns it. It's got to be more than just a packing list.
Oh, much more. Yeah. There's a whole suite of essential documents. Key among them, you've got the bill of lading. That's a legal transport document from the carrier. It confirms proof of shipment and acts as a contract of carriage. Then the commercial invoice. That details the goods, the price, who the buyer and seller are. It's basically the main bill for the international sale. And very importantly, the certificate of origin. The states where the goods were actually manufactured. Crucial for customs clearance and for determining if any special trade agreements or lower tariffs apply. These aren't just bureaucracy, you know. They are vital tools for commerce. They assure clarity, compliance, legal standing, every single step of the way.
Okay, fascinating. Let's shift gears now. Let's talk about people moving across borders, not just goods. Because individuals, just like products, have to navigate a whole set of rules and procedures. And right at the heart of this seems to be customs.
Right. And the term customs itself can be a bit confusing because it has multiple meanings. It can refer to the actual duties or taxes paid on goods when they enter a country. It can mean a physical place, the customs hall at the airport, or the checkpoint at a land border where checks happen. And it also refers to the government department, the agency that oversees all of this. Fundamentally, customs is there to control foreign trade regulations, collect duties and taxes, things like VAT or excise taxes, and, critically important these days, to combat illicit activities, smuggling, security threats. You even have regions forming customs unions, like the one between Russia, Belarus, and Kazakhstan. Once goods or people clear customs into one member state, they can generally move freely within the whole union. It's also worth noting the idea of a border has evolved. It's not just geographical anymore. It's functional. Customs can operate well inside a country, checking goods at major shipping hubs, for example.
Interesting. Okay, so let's look at it from the traveler's side. When you're planning a trip, first things first, you need your travel documents. And it's not always just your regular passport, is it?
No, not always. Beyond the ordinary passport most people have, there's a whole array of specialized documents. You've got diplomatic passports, official ones, service passports for certain government employees, temporary passports, family documents in some cases, emergency travel docs if yours is lost or stolen, and even specific refugee travel documents for those granted asylum. Each one serves a specific purpose and comes with its own set of rules and privileges or limitations.
And then, for many places, you need more than just the passport. You need a visa, that official permission slip to enter.
Exactly. And applying for a visa, say an international one like the Schengen visa for Europe, it isn't just filling out a form online. It's often quite a rigorous process. They might want detailed financial proof you can support yourself. Comprehensive travel medical insurance is often mandatory. For Schengen, for example, you need coverage of at least 30,000 euros for various risks, repatriation, medical emergencies, and biometrics are common now: fingerprints, a live photograph. The requirements are really designed to ensure you meet the specific entry criteria for that country or region. Though it's interesting, there can be exemptions. Sometimes kids under 12 don't need biometrics, or family members of EU, EEA, or Swiss citizens might get certain fees waived, or have slightly different application requirements. It varies.
Okay, so you've got your passport, your visa if needed, you fly, you land, then you face the declaration process, filling out those arrival cards, detailing personal info, why you're traveling, what goods you're bringing in. It always feels like a bit of a moment of truth.
It really is, isn't it? And those customs officers you interact with, they have a standard set of questions they tend to ask. What's the purpose of your trip? How long do you intend to stay? Where will you be staying? What's your occupation? And the big one, do you have anything to declare? These aren't just casual chat. They're critical questions for assessing potential security risks, immigration status, and whether you owe any duties. Being vague, or maybe not having your accommodation details handy, that can definitely raise a few red flags.
Right. Which brings me to something I think a lot of listeners wonder about. What actually gets you flagged for that secondary inspection? We all hear stories, right? But what are some of the less obvious things that might make them take a closer look?
Yeah, it's a good question. There are some surprising ways you might draw attention. Obvious things, maybe, like spending a huge amount of money abroad and coming back with goods way over the duty-free limits. Or having visited certain countries known for particular types of smuggling, like drugs perhaps. But also seemingly innocent things. Using your phone or taking pictures in the customs processing area. That's often prohibited and can make them suspicious. Visiting a farm overseas. That can trigger biosecurity concerns, things like foot and mouth disease. They might want to check your shoes, and even your passport stamps themselves. Certain combinations, like an Israeli stamp, might cause issues or delays entering some Middle Eastern countries, for example.
So wait, you're telling me that forgotten apple I left in my carry-on from the flight, that could actually be why I get pulled aside. And maybe that explains why I always make sure my hiking boots look suspiciously clean before I fly internationally,
Exactly. That's a perfect example. It's not just about the obvious contraband. Traveling with pets needs specific paperwork and checks, obviously. But yeah, even the lingering smell of fruit in your bag from days ago could potentially alert a detector dog, leading to delays while agricultural specialists check for prohibited items. Hiking boots are a classic one in countries like Australia or New Zealand, very concerned about non-native species. They might check for soil or seeds contamination, not knowing your exact accommodation address like we mentioned. Or failing to declare all food items, even if it's just a leftover sandwich from the plane. That can result in fines, sometimes quite hefty ones. A minimum $300 fine for undeclared food isn't unheard of in some places, and definitely further inspection. It's all about protecting national biosecurity in agriculture.
Okay. Important reminders there. Unfortunately, though, not everyone plays by these rules. Which brings us to the darker side of all this international movement, commercial fraud and smuggling.
Yeah, it's the flip side. Commercial fraud basically covers any offense against customs regulations. Usually, it's about avoiding duties and taxes or getting around prohibitions or restrictions. Smuggling, specifically, is the illegal transportation of objects or even people across borders. Often it involves taking legitimate goods from one market to another illegally just to evade taxes or sell them where prices are higher. Think about buying luxury goods in a place with low tax, then secretly bringing them into a high-tax country to resell at a profit. That's a form of smuggling.
And the impact of this, it's not just about lost taxes, is it? The ripple effect seems huge and kind of chilling.
It really is. Beyond the immediate financial gains for the criminals and obviously bypassing security checks, the impact is far-reaching. Governments lose massive amounts of tax revenue, billions annually, easily, which undermines public services, it directly undermines the rule of law, and it often fuels other serious crimes, drug trafficking, human trafficking. These frequently rely on the same illegal routes and networks. The social consequences can be devastating.
Has this always been such a big problem?
Oh yeah. Smuggling's been around for centuries. It's not new. You had wool smuggling out of England back in the 13th century to avoid export taxes. Tea and spirit smuggling was huge in the 17th and 18th centuries due to high excise duties. Today, major areas include tobacco costing governments billions in lost tax revenue. Alcohol is another big one. Illicit pharmaceuticals are a massive market. Some estimates put annual sales up around $200 billion globally. Huge health risks there too, obviously. And even cultural goods, artifacts, antiquities are trafficked illegally. Estimates range from maybe $3.4 to $6.3 billion a year, stripping nations of their heritage.
Wow. And the methods they use, I imagine it gets pretty creative to avoid detection.
Incredibly creative and sometimes very sophisticated. You have the classic methods. Hiding goods inside vehicles, concealed within legitimate cargo shipments, in luggage, or even physically on a person, body packing. But then you get specialized hidden transports. Small ships or submarines, private planes flying low to avoid radar, using remote overland routes. elaborate tunnels built under borders, and things like go-fast boats, high-speed power boats designed specifically to outrun patrol vessels, especially in places like the Caribbean or the Gulf of Mexico. Sometimes the entire transport method itself is designed to be concealed just to avoid border checks altogether. It's a constant cat-and-mouse game between smugglers and enforcement agencies.
So wrapping things up for today, we've really taken a deep dive into these complex, interconnected systems that govern how goods and people move around our world. We've looked at the economic drivers like comparative advantage, the absolutely vital but often invisible role of logistics and documentation, Incoterms, bills of lading. We touched on what travelers face navigating customs, those surprising details and requirements. And then the persistent challenge of illicit activities, like smuggling and fraud. It's really clear that this global flow, while offering huge opportunities, operates within a framework of really strict regulations and faces significant challenges.
Absolutely. I think today's discussion really highlights that balance, doesn't it? Balancing the immense benefits of free trade and travel against the need for security, order, and compliance with national laws. Every time a package arrives at your door from overseas or you board that international flight, you're tapping into this incredibly complex system, the sheer volume of transactions, the movement happening every single second around the globe. It's truly mind-boggling, and it's all underpinned by these rules, these economic theories, these documents, and the diligent efforts of countless people we've talked about today.
A fascinating look at a world operating just beneath the surface of our daily lives. Understanding these elements really is key to appreciating how our global system works. All the best, and we will meet again with another important subject in the next meeting.